I'm Cheryl Burke, and you probably know me from a little dance show called Dancing with the Stars. What you don't know is that I have been in and out of therapy for basically my entire life. I've been sober for 3 years now, and I have an amazing new obsession that I use to help process my feelings, diamond painting. And I want to share my new obsession with my celebrity friends while trading stories you've never heard before. This is Diving Deep.
I am Melissa Chataigne. I've been a TV host and style expert for the last 15 years. The issue most important to me right now is making television and style and fashion more inclusive and sustainable for all. Hey, beautiful.
How are you?
I'm so good.
Thank you for joining me.
I am really excited about it.
Okay, let me tell you something, a little backstory. I know you love to knit. Is that true?
Crochet.
Oh.
Crochet. Well, knit is the 2, crochet is the 1 hook. And I started crocheting at 7.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you must find therapy, or it's therapeutic, right?
Yes, it's like a meditation for me.
Yes, yes.
So you're like arts and crafts with me, like me.
What made you want to, I guess, knit or crochet?
Well, my mom taught me when I was 7, and I welcomed my baby sister into the world at the time with a crocheted scarf, and I just loved it. Then I started making caftans, and it just,
what is that?
It was like basically a blanket, a big blanket. And then I just started making like cooler things. And I remember when like Jessica Simpson like had this like crochet thing, and she was like, like Nick Lachey, and I was like, I can make that. And then I ended up making one. And then now crochet is back this season more than ever. And so now I started making these handbags with handles, and people like Miu Miu has a collection. They're selling bags for $600, and I'm like, I can do that. So I'm gonna start making them and putting them on my pottery website for We Carol. Yeah, I'll teach you.
Wait, what is your pottery website?
We Carol, after my mother who passed.
Oh.
Because she said, so I did this interview with her before she passed, and I said, well, what would you do if you weren't a nurse? And this was like her on hospice, like a couple weeks before she died. And she was like, well, if I wasn't a nurse, I would have done pottery more, but I just didn't think I could come to this country and like do art because my parents are Haitian immigrants. And like she came and she's like, well, I had to have a career, so I just thought I had to be a nurse, but she's so good at pottery. Like there's so much pottery on our house. So then after she died, and I was looking for something to work through my grief, so I'm like, I'm gonna take a pottery class. So like she died in November, January, I started pottery, like right before pandemic started. And then I did that, and I just became, I feel like it was a way to connect with her, and I was really good at it. So then I just started making it. People wanted to buy it. So
did you guys ever do it together, or was it something you started just recently?
Like right after she died.
Yeah, I find this. My father actually passed away, and I'm so sorry to hear about that.
I'm so sorry to hear you lost your dad.
It's a different type of pain, right? And when you allow it. And I've just literally been trying to feel my feelings lately. This has just been a conscious decision for me, because I know if I don't, right, it will turn into something that I will not want to experience, whether that be health matters or whatever.
I threw myself into work, like as soon as she passed, and I just was like, being a stylist, and my mission was really to help people spread it on a larger level, because I worked with celebrities. And then when my sister took her life, we'll get to that in a minute, but I really wanted to help real women embrace their body through style. And then doing television really helped me expand that. And doing Access Hollywood and E! And all these things, I really wanted to bring the Oscars.
That's amazing.
And really bringing more accessibility to style and showing how it's accessible for everyone, and making people feel more confident, whether they're in LA, middle of Iowa, wherever they are. And so I have people like all over the world that message me like, I love your segments. And so I really focus on inclusivity and body positivity. And I always make sure that I include women that are size 2 to size 20 in my segments, because growing up on TV, I only saw like the size 2 blonde women on TV. And so with that being said, I just feel like there's such a limit to with style. And so
you're literally preaching to my soul right now, because I actually suffer from body dysmorphia, and as a dancer, as you know, the I guess what society accepts today is not something that's the reality, right? Especially for curvy women.
Yes.
And so like I stopped ballet at age 9 because of that. I got, I grew up and matured pretty fast at 9, got hips, and then I switched to ballroom. But even to this day, like just recently, actually, my stylist was at my house fitting me, and the self-hate that was going on in my head, but also out loud made my stylist actually stop and say, listen, I've never heard you talk like this about yourself. And it's just so sad because what you're seeing is not the reality. And it's so, body dysmorphia is a real thing. And I'm sure you deal with it a lot with celebrity clients.
Well, that's why I really wanted to change my mission to like make it more accessible to everyone.
Yeah.
Because you kind of do what we have problems with. Being in ballet, I remember being in ballet and like taping my breasts down to fit into my tutu and hating how I was growing as a woman. That's so messed up.
Sad.
I'm like, and that was the norm to literally
People
tape my
pay for
breasts.
that.
I know. And I'm like, I can't continue doing that. I couldn't put out that false narrative anymore. That's why I really wanted to focus on real women and make it more accessible. And so I just had to kind of make the pivot.
Yeah.
And I couldn't be this image maker and still continue to do that.
Right. And so did you ever suffer from any type
did.
of body image issue? Is that when you
I did,
stopped
and I
dancing?
even still do. And that's why I actually stopped working with celebrities as much and really focus more on like hosting and doing more segments.
But that's
because
gonna affect you, right? With
it
this
did.
like the constant negativity, but also the constant just like abuse to yourself.
Well, let's say this. When I stopped dancing and then my curves came in and I'm now like, a size like 10, 12, and I have been as big as a size 18, especially after, like my mom got sick and going back to, pushing, your body changes and there's a death as a dancer. I believe we die twice.
Girl,
Because
I've
when
already
you
died
stop
once,
dancing,
at least.
yes, but when you stop dancing and then you die, there's a death of a dancer.
Yeah.
And there's not too many people talk about that death.
Yeah, you're right. You're so right. So say more.
You die because there's the life that you knew of constantly dancing, constantly having that dancer's body, constantly pushing through the pain, that mentality of always pushing yourself to be flawless, looking in the mirror, knowing your angles, knowing how you perform, knowing that perfection. And then even going into a dance class now would be mortified because my arch isn't the same, my flexibility isn't the same.
I hate dance classes. And when it comes to dance, I would love to, but I think this adds to the social phobia that I experience because I feel like I'm being judged. But when really, though, if you were to really look at it, the world doesn't revolve around our own crazy thoughts, right?
Exactly.
And what we have to do is separate ourselves.
We do.
And it's so much easier said than done.
It is. But I find myself like I would never go to a ballet class ever. I did for a little while before pandemic, but like now I find myself going to there's like a heels class that I like. So it's a little bit more sexy.
Oh, not stripping, but just in heels.
Sexy.
Like stilettos,
it's like that Robin Anton does it. Yeah. It's like that sexy dance class that I like.
Yeah,
so I'll do that.
Do you feel like movement is your therapy as well?
Yeah, I find, so people always talk about like meditation. I have to get up and do meditation breath work in the morning as my first thing. That like prepares me to start today. That's also part of my therapy. That's also part of my grief work. That's also part of how I can show up and fill my cup before I serve, before I go on TV, before I'm like Melissa Chataigne style person. Okay, I have to do that. But this is meditation. Yes. Crochet is meditation. Pottery is meditation.
It's mindful.
Dance is
mindful meditation.
Whatever gets your mind in that like sattvic balance, I believe is meditation. It doesn't have to be like that that people say.
Yeah. How did you process your grief? Like, how did you do it? What
I'm
did you
still
allow
processing. The fact is, I threw myself into work and I pushed myself into work of saying, I want to be the best style expert on every show and do everything. And so from she passed in 2019, 2020, 2021, I pushed myself to be the queen of everything. I did like everything for NBC, doing 5 segments a week. Oh no, I was meditating, but I still just put it in my mind that I like needed to be the best. You know how I put myself in ballet, that I needed to be the best and like have all the best roles, be the principal, do everything. I put that energy into work without taking the time to grieve. So even through the pandemic, instead of going to the studio, I was shooting at home. I became stylist, host, producer, camerawoman, and I said, like, someone asked me to do something, I can do it all.
I can totally relate to you.
And I just became one-woman show without without taking the beat to grieve.
Or listening to your body.
No. And then I had a lump.
Oh, wow.
My first mammogram at 40, I had a lump. Talk about that as a shock.
Oh, I just got chills.
And it wasn't cancerous.
Thank God.
but I had to get a biopsy, and I couldn't get the biopsy till the end of the year because of my schedule. And this was just this past December.
Right.
And when I had to slow down, all of the grief that I wasn't processing all of a sudden came and hit me like a Mack truck. And I spent most of December on the couch, not showered, in a ball, crying.
Feeling.
And all of that became a depression. So once I slowed down, I had to, all the grief that I was avoiding basically showed up at my front door. And I was like, why am I not functioning? Why am I crying? What is wrong with me? And that's what I'm saying to you, is like, if you don't deal with it, it's going to come back.
Yes,
and there's that great book that I read, The Body Keeps the Score. You get it. Oh my God, now I'm going to cry.
No. Thank you.
If you don't,
oh my gosh. Yes,
if you don't deal with it, and they say, like I talk in the book, if cancer, a lot of it is
absolutely
grief and it's pain, and it manifests somewhere in the body. And for women, it mostly manifests in the breast, and that's where grief manifests.
Feeling your feelings it's not that scary, is it?
No, and I think it's important for us, especially, you know, as women, I mean, my parents are immigrants, that we really work on our ancestral healing and healing those ancestral wounds, because
changing the patterns too.
Changing the patterns, because our parents didn't necessarily know how to deal with it. My dad still doesn't want to go to therapy and talk about losing his wife.
Absolutely not. We can change the pattern.
We have to change the pattern. So a lot of my work now is, I'm at this point now at 40 where I'm like, those are my people, and I no longer have that. So how do I move forward with grace? How do I move forward with gratitude? How do I not let that story define me moving forward? And how do I turn that pain into purpose? And that's how I approach my life. Right. That's how I approach elevated living. That's how I approach all of my projects.
What was the gap between your mom and your sister?
11 years.
How did you come out the other side with, you're such a bright and beautiful soul, like really, and you know, sometimes it's rare when there's been such tragedy and trauma that has happened to somebody.
I mean, you get it, because your sister is like
she's like my full-on baby.
Yeah, I feel like and that was my baby, you know? And even though she was my baby, she was such an old soul that I always feel like she was this wise, you know, being. And as I told you, I made this scarf for her when she came home from the hospital. Like, she was like my little person. You know, for me, it was like Jenny was this old soul. She was so mature for her age. She was like the good kid. I was the fuck up. She was the straight A student. I was the one that's like, all right, Melissa, just get through it.
Right.
You know, there's something to be said about perfection. I mean, my parents being really strict, I do feel that there was this added pressure to be somewhat perfect. I mean, with ballet, there's a perfection. We always were in activities. We always were busy all the time. We always had to be like dressed to perfection. And I think there's something to be said, because my parents came to this country and they didn't have, you know, a lot. But when they came here, they wanted us to have everything that they didn't have. There was just a lot of pressure to be like the star kids. And there wasn't really understanding of what depression was. And so when my sister, her junior, senior year, the school counselor was like, you know, Jenny is a little, she's withdrawing a little bit. We think she's a little down. We think she's a little depressed. And I'm like, what is depression? And she said she didn't really want to go to college. She wanted to take a gap year. And my dad was like, absolutely not. She's not taking a gap year. She's going to college. And so there was a fight in the house for her to apply to college. There's a fight in the house for her to go to school. But she was so smart, and she ended up going to Marquette. And then she was fine the first
year off.
No, there was the first couple of years she was fine. And then towards the junior, senior year, she was having a difficult time. And she ended up taking a semester off and came home. And when she was at school, I remember I was in LA and I went to Sundance, she went missing. And her roommates were like, Jenny's not here. And she disappeared, and she ended up like
missing.
She went missing. She ended up going home, and she just said she was depressed. And our neighbor had to check on her, and we had to 5150 her. So
what does
there was
that mean, 5150?
We put her in mental health watch.
So
suicide watch.
Did you experience depression back then? Or
No.
you just didn't?
I didn't experience depression until this past December for the first time. I never have, and at all.
What are the trigger signs or warning signs when someone is depressed?
The withdrawal, not showering, not going to school. So my dad really worked on supporting her and got her to the best doctors in Illinois that he could find, and really did my dad's a fixer. If something was wrong, he would spend all the money in the world to make it right. And she was on medication. And she did not, at the time, I don't think the technology, they didn't understand what medication and to give her the best medication balance. She was depressed. So they put her on.
A psychiatrist?
She did. She saw a psychiatrist. They put her on Zoloft. They put her on Prozac. The Zoloft made her gain weight. The Prozac made her zonked out. Yeah. She was just feeling not right. And she was home and she was just in a ball and she was just feeling awful. And we kept it a secret. We didn't let any of the family know that she was taking a semester off because my dad didn't want the family to look down on her, saying like she took a semester off from college. And looking back now, we wish we had told everyone because we kept it a secret. How inappropriate it was not to share this. And
it's okay.
It's okay. There's no shame in depression. Looking back now, these are the lessons that we learned.
Create the shame and depression.
Exactly. And she went back. She had 3 credit hours left to graduate. She left a suicide note. She was supposed to come home to visit on a Thursday night, drive home from Marquette and never showed up. She went missing. So my dad was like, "Did you talk to your sister today?" No.
Did you guys
she was
talk
supposed
every
to.
day?
We talked every day. And I just was like, no. She talked to me the Wednesday before. Last conversation. Melissa, I love you so much. Thank you for being the best big sister ever. And I said, Jenny, why are you talking like this? I just know how hard it is because Jessica now, our little cousin, was a freshman at Marquette. Jessica now is at Marquette, and now I'm like, have to look out for her. And now I'm recognizing how much work it is to be a big sister because now Jessica's here. And she said, I just sent you a bunch of CDs of the best music that I want you to have. And I just want you to know that. I just love you so much. And I was like, thank you, babe. I love you. Not thinking twice.
Was she always very expressive like that?
Yes, we talked. This is my sister, my right arm. I have, she had this on her hip. Oh, wow. This is the Picasso dove. I have this on my arm. JLC, Jennifer Leslie Chataigne.
I love that so much.
She was my right arm.
Oh my God,
7 years, 7 days, and 7 hours apart. She was my soulmate. So and she left. She killed herself 1 mile from my parents' house in a forest preserve. And they found her body that Friday night. Hazmat unit was called. And my dad didn't tell me because he didn't want me to freak out in LA. He said, it's not looking good. You need to get home by Sunday. But I just felt that feeling. It's not looking good. We can't find her. You need to get home by Sunday. But I had a feeling that something wasn't right. I was supposed to re-sign my lease at the time. And he said, you can't re-sign your lease. You need to move everything into storage. You need to get home. So all of my friends helped me move out. And I put all my stuff in storage. Got home, and my best friend and her mom and my other best friend picked me up at the airport, and they lied to me in the car. They're like, well, Melissa, it's not looking good, but like, it's gonna be, it's gonna be okay. We just gotta get you home. And they knew. And I walked in the front door, and all of the family was lined up, like all these cars were in the driveway, and like my uncle was like, she's here. And I walked in the door, and I knew that she was gone.
I'm so sorry.
And then they said Jenny took her life. The first thing I said when my uncle Eddie said, Jenny committed suicide. And I actually was relieved because the thought when she went missing that because Milwaukee to Chicago is like an hour and a half. And if someone would have killed her, I don't think I would be here.
Right.
The thought of someone hurting her is almost greater than her taking her life, if that makes sense.
100%.
And I said, oh, can I have a Jack and Coke? Is that gross? But
no,
makes sense in a way.
What? No, that's not. Don't no.
Because I was just like,
of course.
Like it was almost like.
I mean, I hear you.
And then you just And then this is the fight or flight.
Yes.
Being a type A, being a dancer, I went into production mode.
Of course.
I produced the most beautiful celebration of life, the most beautiful, service, everything. And I didn't cry
Yeah, I hear you.
until they brought out her casket at the end. Wow. And they played our song, which is Island in the Sun by Weezer. And I fell to my knees and I didn't get out of bed for like a week. And that was like when I broke down. But she's with me.
I know, for sure.
And my mom is with me.
Do you find a sense of peace knowing that?
Yeah.
But it's hard. I mean, I can't even imagine.
It's so hard being in this business and being a woman of color in this business, being a woman of color in general, being, married, no kids, and not having family. I never have a niece or nephew. I don't have a mom.
You're ride or die. Like
those are my people.
Yeah. And this, unfortunately, in this community of entertainment, sometimes it's hard to find,
Yeah. Like my friends are my family. Yeah. I have such a really tight circle. But like people are like, how is she sitting here talking about this and like open about, because like I never want anyone else to be in this position. One, siblings are the forgotten mourners. They always pay attention to the parents. Oh my God, they lost a child, and they don't pay attention to the siblings.
Oh, yeah, of course. I hear you. You're actually, I've never thought of it like that.
Like we're the forgotten mourners. And two, like I never want anyone to feel like this. And this is the wake up call. So like I say this now, like people like when you say celebrity stylist and you introduce me to celebrity stylist, like I like it, but I'm also like, I was sitting here like working on XYZ A-lister, and then my sister literally killed herself, and I took a break. I couldn't put out the false narrative when like most of the people that I'm styling on set are like, oh my God, I hate my body. I look fat. And I'm like, you live in this. This is your life. And you, and you hate yourself. Yeah. And like, these are kids in the Midwest looking up to you and hating their lives and miserable. And you are perpetuating this bullshit. I can't be a part of this anymore. This is why I do what I do. This is why I bring inclusivity to television. This is why I bring representation to television. I cannot be a part of that. This is why Melissa Chataigne style exists.
Yes. How do you define yourself then?
A change maker.
Love it.
I've never been the one that's like cool at Fashion Week. I don't go to the parties. I've never been really like, I don't ever feel in that group. I've never been in that fashion world that's like cool. Like I look at like
the clicky.
I've never been in that. And even when I look at like people that, the women that are embraced, that are styled, I'm like, yes, you're great that you look styled, but you're a size 2. And it's great to be like a hanger that's styled, but like try styling someone that's a size 16 and then come to me and say you're a stylist. Because the average woman in America is a size 16. If you can style that, then you're a stylist to me.
Right. Like what are the, I guess, trigger signs when you feel like somebody needs help or is in trouble?
But like for someone who's in it, these are things that I truly, and even for myself when I was going through depression and I was very transparency, I was suicidal this past December. For the first time, I didn't understand like, why do I feel like I just want to die? I just didn't want to exist. I had a code word for my friends. So have a code word when you're in that dark space.
When you're like there.
For me, melted cheese.
Wow.
I'm feeling melted cheese. And that's when I'm like, I'm fucked. Like I feel like melted cheese right now. And it's like, if I'm having a good day, I'm hard cheese.
Right.
If something's like, I'm soft cheese. But it's like, have a code word.
And what do they do?
They know, like they need to call, they need to come over, like stat.
I would love for someone to be like, how are you? I feel like shit. How about you? You feel good?
Yes.
Yeah.
Why do you think I connected with your producer, Jen?
Right.
Because we had real talk. Like connect with people beyond what you can get from them.
Yeah.
We need to stop putting out that false narrative of that TV and like what you can do for people. And every time I leave someone, I really ask, how can I support you?
Oh, that's beautiful.
Get into the habit of asking these things.
Yes.
Because that's what really, and mean it.
Yes.
And mean it to follow up.
Absolutely. Your vulnerability is so contagious and courageous, and thank you. Thank you for sharing. It's not easy what you're sharing, but I know you're helping. You've helped me, and I know you're helping so many people. So thank you for sharing your heart with me. I really appreciate you, and
Aw, I
I'm like
appreciate you.
so in love with you. So where can people find you?
I mean, my website, melissachataigne.com. You can find me on Instagram at Melissa Chataigne. I have a weekly newsletter, Elevated Living, where I share style tips and life tips
I'll be on there.
and style and substance. And then, you know, when I was going through my ick, I created this program called Project Love Yourself. And I created it into a self-guided program that has just 30 days of like small rituals that you can do to like up-level your life and feel good. And it's
like spiritual healing type thing,
a
or
little bit like more tangible tools, a little bit spiritual.
Like
you have yoga,
meditation.
breath work, mantras,
I love that.
and it's less than a cup of coffee a day. I'm gonna finish this because I need to get
we're
this
gonna
together. We need like
Our
an intermission.
conversation was way too
Deep. I did like 3 things.
but in a good way. Listen, we're gonna come back without the cameras, top knot, sweats,
Yes.
and Gucci shoes.
We need
and we're
like
gonna finish this
pajama
together.
party to do
Yes.
this.
Yes.
I
Thank you.
promise. Oh, girl, you're amazing. I love you.